having reached the hour of 10 a.m., I'm calling this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chaplin here, Covert here, Evans here, Ozog
Here.
Tonatori,
Here.
Zay.
Here.
Okay, next, Chair, I don't really have chair remarks for the moment. I'm sure we'll have remarks as we go through the morning. Any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Approval of minutes. I move to approve the minutes of the
Second.
Transportation Committee, January 16th, 2024. Have a second? Any comments or changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have budget transfers. I am going to move to combine budget transfers A through E. Second. Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move for approval of 24-40-044-7 FY 23 budget transfer of $1,200 in salary and wage adjustments to employer share IMRF funds needed to cover FY 2023 year end. I move for approval of 24-0448 FY 2023 budget transfer of $9,400 from employer medical and hospital insurance to employer share IMRF funds needed to cover FY 2023 year end. I move for approval of 24-0449 budget transfer of $26,000 from employee medical and hospital insurance to overtime funds needed to cover FY 2023 year end. I move for approval of item 24-0450 FY 23 budget transfer of $100,000 from temporary salaries, $178,000 from salary and wage adjustments, and $50,000 from benefits payments for a total of $328,000 to regular salaries, funds needed to cover FY 2023 year end. And I move for approval of 24-0563 budget transfer of $432 from transportation infrastructure to land right of way, funds needed for unforeseen easement costs for the Geneva Road Bridge Replacement
Second.
Project when the FY 2024 budget was created. I have a second, and does anyone have any questions or comments on these budget transfers? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next, I move for approval of 24-0437 recommendation for the renewal of a contract to Standard Industrial and Automotive Equipment to provide rotary, automotive, and heavy equipment left certification, preventative maintenance, parts, and repair services on an as-needed basis for the Division of Transportation for the period April 1, 2024 through March 31st, 2025, for a contract total not to exceed $29,900 per lowest responsible bid. Okay, and any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I move for approval of DTP 000524, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Old Republic Title Company for professional title insurance services as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period of February
Second.
29th, 2024 through February 28th, 2026, for a contract total not to exceed $50,000 per lowest responsible bid. I have a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I move for approval of DTP 000624, recommendation for the approval of a contract to 72 Hour LLC doing business as National Auto Fleet Group to furnish and deliver one Ford Transit cargo van for the Division of Transportation for the period of February 14th, 2024 through November 30th, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $65,492.53, contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act.
Second.
Second, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Move for approval of DTP 000724, recommendation for the approval of a contract to 72 Hour LLC doing business as National Auto Fleet Group to furnish and deliver 5 Ford Broncos for the Division of Transportation for the period February 14th, 2024 through November 30th, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $163,683.10. Contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act. Any comments or questions? I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Move for approval of DTP 000824, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Alltech Industries to furnish and deliver one new bucket truck for the Division of Transportation for the period of February 14th, 2024 through November 30th, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $211,750, contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act. I have a second. Any comments about this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, And next up, we are going to have a presentation of the mobility framework plan. And I think I'm calling John Loper to the hot seat.
Good morning, everybody.
John.
Appreciate your time in review of the mobility plan. Obviously it was a longer document. Appreciate your review and advancing this to county board for your approval today. So back in October, we start the back.
There we go.
Back in October, I mentioned that this is called a plan, but it's really much more like a strategic plan. And as a matter of fact, I think there will be some elements of the mobility plan, but then the new strategic plan that's coming out. I don't want to preempt, obviously, the strategic plan committee and their presentations, but there's a lot of mobility. I think that's going to be in there as well. It's not meant just for DuPage County, but also for all of our peer agencies who do mobility planning and programming throughout the county. Next, Joe, please. So after we met in October, we published the draft on our website for public consumption, and we asked our public agencies and peers to review and comment. We closed the public comment down in November, December, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those comments as we kind of finalize this presentation here. Thanks. So the long-range transportation plan is kind of the overarching document which this mobility framework is part of, which includes the ADA transition plan, which is currently active, ongoing, and we are incorporating in most of our capital programming these days. The trails plan, which you will talk a little bit about later on in this presentation, would be Sid Kenyon's final act for DuPage County DOT as he departs to go to village of Schaumburg. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yes,
as well.
let's talk about that right now.
Right now.
I'm sorry, John. Please
That's all right.
carry on.
We also have, and we've just begun the Safe Streets for All action plan, which will be really talking about bike ped and vulnerable road user mobility. And we'll begin a bike ped plan also, unfortunately, without Sid's contributions, but maybe he'll be helpful to us as the village of Schaumburg director. Next, please. So in the framework, this is kind of a family of documents, including the existing conditions report, which you've probably seen, a gap analysis, which really identifies some of the opportunities and difficulties that we have throughout the county in providing mobility services. It includes a vision and goals and themes, 8 themes actually, 27 actions, and an implementation matrix that basically tells us how, when, where, and why we're going to be doing things. And then there's a mobility guide as well, which we'll post on the website that will help people kind of navigate some of the difficult mobility landscape that is out there presently. Next, Joe. So as I mentioned previously, we had 8 themes that were kind of related. I've related here to the CMAP PERT themes throughout that were developed over the summer and the fall. System we want, which is kind of the system and network types of issues, a financial component, and then how to implement. I'll remind the committee too that we are not programming capital projects or services as part of this plan. So there is no financial component to DuPage County other than the actions that we might take in the future regarding some of the mobility items like the low corners, sidewalk programs and things like that. So this framework does not actually program funding. Next to it. So some of the, we had these mobility themes. There were 27 of them, roughly 3 or 4 of them per theme. Some of the things that were really important to us that were talked about by the public stakeholders and our peer agencies included adaptation of existing service routes, coordination of schedules across service providers, involvement of employers in regional transit benefits programs, Review of township and ride DuPage services, which I think is an important thing to consider in the near future. Support for innovative fare programs, and we thank Pace and Metra for, their work at trying to improve those types of programs. Inclusion of local agencies and counties in the regional transit decision-making processes and so on. There are many of them here, obviously, and if you have any questions about any of the action items or the strategies that we have, I'm willing to talk about them. Thanks, Mr. So again, 27 strategies and 78 actions across the 8 themes we're working on. Some of these already, we talked about the Safe Streets for All initiative, which we're just kicking off presently, the Deliberate Corners initiative, the ongoing ADA transition plan. And we've also begun work with Pace, and thanks Chris for putting that together last week for the Butterfield Road Cermak Pulse Corridor. Worked with the Village of Lombard, and that's ongoing, and it's a real interesting process, I think, and we'll be very active in that over the course of the year. So next, please. The comments that we received were few. There were roughly 12 comments. The things that we heard really talked about transit route, land use connections, bus service and transit app reliability. That's a big theme today, I think. Support for county investment in non-motorized system development. So removal of obstructions, kind of that very last mile bike and ped accommodation for people with disabilities, especially. Public transit to and from O'Hare. That's a common theme amongst the Avid Bicycle Federation folks. Support for better wayfinding, which some of that will be addressed through the Trails plan that Sid will talk a little bit about. And obviously, really talking about retooling services and routes to accommodate frequency and hours of operation for people. A real key theme that we've heard, whether in comments on the plan or over the phone or written comments over the course of the years. So that's it in a nutshell. If you folks have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Good job, nice work.
And Mr. Zay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving us more time on this. And it's a great job. I mean, I was disappointed that no county board members, not even the chair of the committee, were asked to talk about this, given any input or anything else on the plan. I mean, I know we can ding a bell. I've been here a long time. Public transit hasn't changed in DuPage County. It's not going to change. And it's been the same thing for 25 years. And they have to make real changes if they're going to do it, because the system they have, they keep saying, oh, we need to make changes, but they haven't. We saw after COVID, transit's down. The way they're doing transit's all over. But what do we hear? Well, we need more money. We need more money. We need more money. And in that segment of the population that's using public transportation is staggering for this much money that they want. I mean, if I am looking at page 59, 1% of the rides are public transit in DuPage County, 1%. And it used to be a joke with Jeff Reddick when he served on the board. You ever see a Pace bus and you look at it, it's usually 80% of the time empty at that point, or there's 1 or 2 people. So there's got to be drastic changes. And all I see on this plan is the same thing. I'm glad to see they've actually acknowledged areas in the county, like in my district, where we don't have any public transit whatsoever. But there's got to be other areas in the thing to dial a ride. I mean, ADA is great, but that was mandated by the state. They told Pace they had to do it. But there's got to be different ways. I mean, bold steps of going forward on this. And this plan, it just seems like it's the same thing that we're talking about. And unfortunately, in DuPage County, we're just not a county that's ever used public transit. It just hasn't been a big thing. People are dependent on their cars here. I mean, it's unfortunate. So I'd like to see more dial-a-ride programs. I mean, more of a ride share concept. I mean, more people take ride shares than they do public transportation. There's got to be some way that Pace and Metro and all of them can figure this out and come up with a new model of public transportation, because it's just not, it's the same thing. And it's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. And we're going to go along with the plan, but we know they're trying to change the service boards. They're trying to do everything else, and they're coming after the money. They're gonna come after our money because the city of Chicago wants it, needs it. City of Chicago public transit is a lot different than the suburbs. We all know that. And even Metro, when they come out, their ridership is fluctuating. It's what, big Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, it's nobody. I mean, the downtown is changing. Office space is at an all-time high open. People are not commuting to working. People are working from home. So, I mean, it's a well put together plan, but it just seems to me it's just more of the same stuff that we've seen for the last 25 years, and it's nothing. It just seems like, hey, we have to do it, but we're just gonna do the same thing over and over again.
Well, thanks for the comment, Jim. I appreciate that. I know one of the things that we've been really interested in is the PACE network revitalization, project that they have ongoing, and at some point, hopefully, Chris and Pace can come back and talk a little bit more about what they're doing, and who's really involved in helping them make those decisions. Because what I'm hearing from you is having local government authorities, participate in that and help make some decisions. So I would strongly encourage this.
And I think we all want things that work. I want routes that are out there that work, that people take, that people need, people depend on. But then we just have other routes out there they're just driving around. You know what I mean? I mean, you gotta start at some point having a hybrid of how we're doing this and trying to figure it out. And the townships, the dollar ride programs, I think those work well for them, and they get a lot of seniors that they can take the places. But again, ride sharing, I know they're working with that. There's other ways that, people don't want to be inconvenienced. I'm a suburban kid. I'd rather sit in my car in traffic for 4 hours than get on a train, but that's just the way I am. All right.
I will say, I am a native of the city of Detroit, where public transit has been completely, virtually exonerated from the fabric for 60, 70 years. And so I think what our mobility framework gives us is a way to go forward, because really not until since the 1950s, when all the expressways were being built and we were really moving into an automobile society, have we experienced the kind of change that transit is going through right now. The pandemic has changed everything, work patterns, ridership. I think what this gives us, and John, you and your team have done a great job on this, is a way for us to go forward and work with PACE. Chris Rose is here today, thank you, and Metra, and do whatever we can to help the citizens who do use it right now, our constituents, and try to increase usership. But right now we are in such a state of flux, especially with working at home, that we really need to work together on this. And I think this gives us a great framework for that. Member Desart?
Thank you. I was just gonna add on to what Member Zay said, and that is that, do they do studies on where people want to go? Because if I'm elderly or disabled and I want to go to my doctor, I don't want to be dropped off, a mile or two away from where my doctor is. So if there were more studies on,
And that's
where people want to go.
That's definitely being addressed.
And
I know
accommodate
PACE, it's called the last mile. And the
Right,
last mile is
right.
one of the biggest issues in public transportation.
That's
How do you
accommodate.
finish the trip from, and so that's definitely, I know PACE is working on that, and Metro, everybody, CMAP. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the next year, because we're really at a crisis situation, especially with funding. And I think everyone is well aware of that. So, Member Evans.
Thank you. I want to pay a compliment to Chris Rose at PACE, because I did go to their public comment meeting, and they've been doing a lot. They pointed out that they have this transit app. I went to a train station. I just wanted a picture of a train. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this train station. I downloaded the app, and you can find all the public transportation in the area using this app. You can find out where the train is and how many minutes away it is. And they are working on new technology for, kind of like an Uber type ride. So it's out there. It's not really a dot. It's not really a dot thing, but I know that they are working very hard. It's hard to bring in new technology, just public transportation of all things, but I know they're working hard on it. So I do think the last mile is very difficult. I don't think the senior citizens or people with disabilities have as much of an issue as someone who wants to go to a job interview. They don't even know if they have the job or not. So it's not like they can get some ride share with all their coworkers. Getting to a job interview, that's kind of the difficulty. And once they get the job, how do they get to that job? That's,
And another thing we can do is definitely work with employers, et cetera, when we went to the discussion about the, pulling a blank here, Cermak, doing the Cermak route, Butterfield Road. We found out that Pace is not allowed to bring its buses into Oak Brook Center. Is that correct, Chris?
We do have service.
But there was a time frame that they're not allowed to come in or something along those lines, if I recall. So there's some restrictions where
There are some-
employers are not encouraging use of public transit. And generally, those are the riders who need public transit the most. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to work with others. So, Member Covert.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that. I think with being in the suburbs as opposed to the city, our infrastructure is really spread out too. We have wider, buildings are wider, further apart. And just like the point with, the last mile that you want to get to, and maybe we could, over time, it'll take years, work with zoning and development and, maybe making buildings a little closer. If there's a new building going up, trying to zone it a little closer. I mean, that's a very long-term plan, but part of that is we're just so big up, and so spread out. So I don't know how we're gonna solve that issue.
Well, one of the things that we've been doing, Bill can talk to this at some point, again, in the future, is that we have been contributing to, whether it's the IDOT corridors or the PACE, pulse route, traffic signal swap outs for, for new controllers for bus rapid transit type of solutions in a corridor. And so we do pay for some of the energy, some of the improvements at the corners that are DuPage County corners. So we do have an agreement with IDOT right now, PACE.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And unlike members say, I love getting on a train and going, taking public transit. But, out here in DuPage, it is very hard to change people's mindsets to go from getting in their car to getting on public transit, right? Because we don't do that here. We don't have it. But I think if we saw public transit that, took people to places that they want to go, like to the mall or to the hospital or wherever it was, and when we saw a need, if we saw that there was a real huge interest in it, but I don't even know, honestly, from the majority of our constituents, we hear that there's a lack of public transportation, but how many of our constituents are really gonna take public transit when they all have sometimes 5 vehicles in their homes, right? I mean, this is reality of DuPage, so it's really, so changing mindsets, changing, all of that. I mean, if you're in the city, I mean, a bus comes by every 2 or 3 minutes, right? At that one spot, takes you somewhere, you get on the L, you go someplace else, right? Very transit friendly, but we just don't have that here. And I think, going up here too, everybody has multiple vehicles. So it's really, I'd love to see more public transit, but I don't even know if we had it, if people would use it because they're so used to getting in their cars and driving.
Or they have 5 vehicles and Uber Eats stops and drops off food at their house. And they get in their car and drive out.
Yes, that's true, yes,
that's
but you know what
true.
I'm saying. So
You
it's
you
a
just
whole
summed
lot.
up the suburban dilemma of the last 70 years in a nutshell. I mean, it is often, it's about convenience, but for
Mhm.
those who do rely on public
Yeah,
transportation,
you have
it's
to make it
about far more
stronger.
than
Yeah,
convenience.
yeah.
So, but John, I really appreciate your and the team's effort on this. And I'm going to move on to our next item, which is DTR 000424, recommendation for adoption of the Transportation Mobility Framework. And we've had a lot of questions. I've moved
Okay, second.
second member Evans. We've had a lot of discussion. I think a lot of the questions cannot be answered today, shall I say, but I would like to move for recommendation. Do we have any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll bring that before the board. Next, I'm going to move for approval of DTO 00124, ordinance declaring the conveyance of an easement to the county of DuPage necessary and convenient,
Second.
and authorizing the execution of an easement agreement between the county of DuPage and the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, providing for the granting of a permanent stormwater easement to the county for the Geneva Road Bridge project, estimated county cost, $251,432. I have a second from Mr. Zay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Okay. Next up, we have an informational report on a trails plan update. And having just received the information of your eminent departure, I am very sorry to hear this and very happy for you moving on to your next challenge.
Thank you.
So Schaumburg,
Thank you. Yes, Village of Schaumburg.
Schaumburg, come on. I'm letting them take you from us anyway. Good luck and we
Yeah.
wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And-
It's been a pleasure serving the committee and thank you, of course, for participating in the Trails Plan discussions as well as the many discussions we've had.
And I personally want to thank you for all the times living right next to the Prairie Path as I do, that I have gone right to Sid, this is going on. And my response has been, sometimes I can't even use the word immediate. It's been that quick. So I really appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
that's credit to Mike and his staff on the
Yes,
maintenance side
thank
for
you.
being so responsive. to
I have a
that.
few things, by the way, but I'm gonna wait till, the end of March. Go on.
So, yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you, Sid.
This is just gonna be a real quick and dirty update. Just got a couple slides here. So today, we have the final draft of the Trails Plan nearly ready and complete for, committee review. Next slide, please. Just as a summary of how we got here, we've gone through these 5 stages, if you include the draft and final plan stage, which we released for public comment this fall. We had quite a bit of stakeholder engagement throughout, including a couple of meetings with the committee, which we'll talk about. Next slide, please. Thank you. We had really 3 stages of public input to this point, where we had our trail intercept surveys 1 and 2. The first intercept survey, we had some general questions about how people use the trail, how they get to the trail. And the second survey focused a lot on the kinds of enhancements that folks would like to see on the trail. And we'll have that information in the appendix for you all to review if you'd like to look at that again. The draft plan, as I had previously mentioned, from October to November, we had that out for public comment and we got lots of comments. And so we've taken those, we've responded, and we've made some adjustments to the plan, nothing substantive, but some minor adjustments to help how we present the plan to people, the ideas that are in there and clarify some of the things that we're trying to talk about. And also the linkages to the 2003 Trails Maintenance Policy. I think it would be remiss of us to not build upon the Trails Maintenance Policy that exists for the standards that have been established already and how we want to build upon those in order to improve our enhancements and use of the trail space. We've been in front of you all a couple of times to this point. We had some one-on-one member discussions a couple of years ago. We appreciated those. And we've taken that feedback and incorporated that into the plan as well. So as I mentioned today, we were intending to have that draft plan ready for review. We have a few edits to make before we're ready to share with the committee, but that should be in your inbox in the next 48 hours. After that, if you all are support the plan in its current state, we'd be recommending the plan for committee approval on February 20th to go forward in front of the board at the end of the month. Are there any questions? Yes.
My question, if you don't want to put that. Yeah, is there any, this is for the future, but are there any plans to do like any north-south type trails? It's mostly east-west.
Yes, this plan is mostly focused on the east-west trails that were in the Trails Maintenance Policy. So Prairie Path, Great Western Trail, Southern DuPage Regional Trail. Of course, we're working on the East Branch DuPage River Trail. We have involvement in that project. But that's not the main focus of the plan.
So, but in the future, is it anything that you're, not you, but the DUDOT, is that something that we're gonna consider as, it looks like we've got everything covered or east-west,
East
but
Branch.
Yeah, if you recall, back in the fall, we got over $1 million from
for EV,
Congressman.
yeah, that-
Yes.
okay,
past.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess
We're
it'll-
starting engineering studies.
okay,
So we're
Run through more.
at the very preliminary.
okay. Yeah, I guess it will go up to the Illinois Prairie Path or the Great Western Trail.
Both.
Okay, great.
Both. We have one segment of the project that will connect the Prairie Path and the Great Western Trail, which will be hopefully starting on soon. And then the segment from the Prairie Path to Butterfield Road We're awaiting confirmation from IDOT that we can use the $1.5 million congressional funds that we were awarded in order to get that project started.
We try to keep the people from the south of the county out of the west side, as we try to do it. We're bad enough the east people come over, but the south people, we try to keep away.
That would be a Mr. Zay sponsored policy. Any other questions? Sid, thank you so much. We'll look in our inboxes for the final draft. Is that what we can call this?
Correct. Final
Okay,
draft.
perfect. Okay, and again, I really need to say that our loss is Schaumburg's gain. So good luck and
Good
really
luck.
appreciate all the work you've done here.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Thank
kind
you.
words. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Any-
Wow, Mary, you got rid of the trails guy and the director. So we've got a little over a year.
Sounds like my evil plan, but I don't think I was involved in this, but people make their own career decisions, Mr. Zay. Thank you. Any other old business? That would make me very powerful, Mr. Zay. Is that really where you want to go?
All those phone calls, I don't know. Could be, you know.
Okay. We do wish you the very best. Any new business? Member Tassard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say congratulations for joining the Grandmothers Club.
Thank you. Thank you.
And welcome to Gray Ozog.
Okay, Ozog, Grant Thompson Ozog was born a week ago today, and my husband and I were in South Carolina for his birth, and everybody is at home now, and they are doing well, and God bless them. So he's adorable. I am a little biased. I'm very biased, but everybody's doing well. So thank you. Any other new business? Truly new business? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody.